The old way of doing business was really to externalize as many costs as you could, and that's what people were taught in MBA programs. Profit maximization is the key. Everything else doesn't really matter. As long as you don't break the law, pollute as much as you need to maximize your profits. And really, we've been working on that presumption in terms of how we do business for about 50 years now, and the music stopped. We're running out of time, and now these things are starting to really hit businesses in a very existential way.
It starts with a very clear commitment from top management so that everybody in the organization knows where do we want to get. It needs to make sure that people perceive these targets not as just dumped on them, but that they are realistic, that they have been set with having in mind what is feasible and how fast. So acceptance is a result of people understanding what you want, them seeing that this is properly thought through, that it is ambitious but yet achievable, and that you are serious about actually getting it done.
Unlike finance, sustainability covers so many different dimensions of the business. And as a result, you need to bring all the experts around the table. And so what we're seeing is it's become a bit of a matchmaking exercise in organisations, because people have to talk to each other, have to share information. So it's really underlying the cross-disciplinary nature of sustainability.
We have some real leaders who have been innovating, and they've been using what we would call capitals accounting, but bringing these externalities into their decision-making processes using integrated profit and loss accounts or other or balance sheet approaches to help to make real decisions about the extent to which they are paying living wages in their supply chains, or their exposure to water, and how they're going to manage those risks in order to have resilient businesses in the future. If you're a drinks company, water's a really big resource for you, but if that is being depleted and you're part of that depletion, then you're not going to have a business model in the future.
So what advice do you have then for the CEO who is facing this kind of risk?
It's really about making sure that the people at the front line take responsibility. And that's really the key throughout all sustainability. If we go back to the whole idea of why were companies created in the first place? Why do we have corporations? They were given legal status as a person, as a legal person, on the basis that they carry the same responsibilities as each of us do. And so, whilst we've been under the kind of delusion that somehow business can escape these responsibilities, increasingly we're seeing the impacts of that, and the fact that it does come back and hurt the business in one way or another. Is your board taking a kind of wide view lens of all the risks, of all the things that could harm the business going forward? Because actually that's their job. As directors under company law, their job is to make sure that there is the long-term success of the business. It's fundamental in company law.
How hopeful are you that you will continue producing impact?
We are an impact company. That's the way we define ourselves. We've been working for sustainability for the past 18 years, so now it's part of our culture, completely integrated into our business model. And we consider sustainability like a marathon without finish line. It's always a matter of reinventing ourselves. Collaboration is absolutely critical, because one company cannot overachieve these goals on energy transition and sustainability, because first, we need to work with customers and suppliers in order to have meaningful impact. We need also to work with startups and the ecosystems of innovation, because we cannot have inside our big companies everything. So we have been investing at a company that is in San Francisco that is called AI Dash, that is helping on climate risk assessment for the grid operators. You know that the grid operators, they have to transform quite dramatically because more renewable energy is coming. a lot of variability with renewable energy. We don't have sun all the time, you don't have wind all the time, so they have to adjust, but at the same time you have extreme events, and they have to plan that. They have to anticipate the impact of climate change on the resiliency of their overall grid operators. And this is exactly what the startup is doing.
I think the world is going to evolve hugely in general. I think that we're in a golden era of innovation. I think we also have the ability to make sure that the agenda is focused where we can have most impact, and we're patient. We recognize, particularly in the planetary health space, that the return cycle and the J-curve for returns is different to traditional asset classes. And I think us and a number of other like-minded investors recognize that, and recognize that real value creation may take a little longer, but the real value creation is there.